Welcome back to another edition of Alive Partner TV. I am your host and creator, Dr. Mario Torres-Leon. And this is another special edition of the Human Power Series, which we call here in Alive Partner TV, HPS. Every single time that we come together for one of these episodes, it's truly to showcase the power of the human spirit. And today's particular guest is not an exception. I am profoundly grateful for her generosity to gift us with her time and her wisdom to come together with us. Her name is Miss Lane McDougall. Lane is a powerhouse of a human being, and I can tell you all, even though you don't know her yet, that by the time that you're done watching this gathering, your life will be changed as much as mine was when I witnessed her evolve in a matter of minutes in front of the camera every single day when she showed up for our prior cycle of the 28-day gratitude launchpad, which we also know as GL28. Lane is an inspiring woman. Her desire to be vulnerable, to be raw, to be human is something to be reckoned with. And I am sure that that's exactly what will unfold because she can't help herself but just to be who she is. Lane, as part of her life, had the aspect of being an aspiring actress and model. Her life has shifted in many different ways, and I have no doubt that whatever continues to unfold in this moment will be extremely successful because of the power of her heart and the way that she has continued to develop and discover how to show up fully. Lane, what an honor to have you here today. Welcome to Alive Partner TV, to the Human Power Series. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be speaking with you in person. I didn't get to make it to the group calls during my first session, but I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Lane, walk us a little bit about your journey in your personal development, because obviously you were doing some things and exploring like many of our community members have done it before they arrive at actually doing one of our experiential journeys. And you were in a journey of your own. Tell us about Lane's life prior to arriving here. What was going on?
You know, I still had a lot of unprocessed anger and frustration. I was feeling like so incredibly stuck in my life. And, you know, for years, I've followed people like your wife, Dr. Kim. I've done other modalities and techniques and processes. And I had seen, you know, incremental shifts, but I still was like, what is missing here? And what do I need to see? Because I felt like I was in this like gridlock, and not just with myself and like my career, but also with the people in my life, with my health. Like I would get so far and then it would just still be like I wasn't moving enough. You know, it just didn't feel like I was getting, you know, to a totally different state. And so years ago, a few short years ago, I had gone to a metaphysical doctor who is a good friend of mine now. And I walked into her office and I said, you know what the problem is? I'm not grateful for my life. You know, like I said, I'm grateful for things when they go my way. And I'm grateful for, you know, when people do things for me. But I said, but in general, I don't feel grateful for my life. I feel this frustration and this conflict, and I don't know what to do with it. And so she was helpful, and she still is. And you know, I went on to do other things, but listening to Dr. Kim, I've probably been listening to her for almost 10 years now. And when you started to get cycled into her videos, and when I saw the type of person that you were, Dr. Mario, and then I heard about not only a live partner, but also about the gratitude launchpad, I was like, oh, okay. Okay, I said, this is it, because this is the key word here is gratitude. And he has now this specific program. And when I would listen to you and Dr. Kim together, or whatever videos I saw of you separately, and when you would talk about this, first, I liked that you were to the point, you were honest, and you were vulnerable enough and showed emotion, and you held a space for other people. And so for me, I said, that's that's it. Like, because I had kind of stopped doing programs because I felt like I was just trying to do what was the next one, and where was, where was the information out there. But for some reason, I felt like just give it a chance. Gratitude is, what I'm being drawn towards, and I'm still discovering. And I said, here's a man, I can get his perspective, and maybe there will be something different, maybe there won't. I had no expectations, but I just know myself well enough. When people keep popping up or things keep popping up, I'm like, that's usually what I need to do. So thank you to Dr. Kim for continuing to bring you into her side of things, because getting to know you and what you're about, and making those realizations through those videos that I saw beforehand, it allowed me to take a chance, and take a chance on myself. And that was also another message that I had been receiving for years, was just give it a chance, like it's all about possibility. And so I did, and I'm I'm so grateful that I did, because everything has opened up for me, and I feel so much better sitting here today compared to when I took your course in February. So
Lane, thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. One of the things that happens when people are coming to the community and they're considering joining one of the journeys of GL28 is this aspect of, well, I'm a pretty grateful person, and I have done all sorts of gratitude practices and journaling and this and that. And I think it's a really fair thing to say for people to share that, right? That's what they know.
mhm,
And some have been really courageous and reach out and said, well, I have done some of this thing of the magic because, as you know, I started using the magic as a source of inspiration to what this program has become, which is not the book, The Magic.
no.
But that's how people come in with what we know, which is very understandable. And I honor it. What was your expectation coming in? We all have expectations of some sort of ideas of what we have. You were somewhat on the other end of the spectrum, like, I'm just going to give it a shot. And you're talking about possibilities, but still, we're kind of like walking, like, well, let's see what happens and what I get out of here. What was that like for you?
Well, I'm usually the type of person, like, I am usually like, I will try whatever, I try to be open minded. And even when I feel uncomfortable and like, oh, I don't know if and it's more about fitting in. And I was like, there's that just goes out the window. But I was like, I have no expectations because I've done all this other stuff. And I said, you know what? I said, it's 28 days. If nothing happens, then so be it. But I know
Mm.
that based off of what I get from everything I've, read or listened to from Dr. Kim, and then, like I said, with you coming on board, and even in those short moments of listening to you talking about what your work is like, I received so much from that. So I said, there's got to be something here for me, because energetically, I'm already like 100% yes for Dr. Kim, 100% yes for Dr. Mario, because of who you guys are as people, and how you live your lives, and what your missions are. And so I just opened, because for so long I've been living in what I feel like a contracted state. And I said, if it wasn't for me, I would just have blown it off and been like, okay, thanks, Dr. Mario, like, but no thanks. But I remember I said, I've got a lot going on right now, when I first heard about your program. And I said, but the next one, the very next one that they announce, I am in. And so I did. And I think the reason I didn't have expectations is because in the past, I would have tried to prepare, and my perfectionism, and, just trying to get it right, and trying
Mm.
to, just, um, force something to happen. And I've moved through a place where I just am open and I want to receive, because I feel like that forcing and trying to make something happen, nothing happens. And you sit there in confusion and doubt. And so I said, it's not for me to know beforehand. I'm just going to be here right now, and whatever happens, happens. And I also have been a person chasing freedom. And so I feel like for a long time it was, that forcing of trying to get it. And I'm like, I can just be here, and I can just listen. And I know when I listen to other people's stories of transformation or what they've been through, I know what I've already experienced with that. And so for me, it was like, I don't need to hold myself hostage that I've got to get something out of this because I'm joining and I'm committing to it. And, it's like, I've learned that in life, it really is about the experience. And that, like I said, if nothing happens, which is very rare, but if nothing happens, then at least I got to connect with people, and especially with you, Dr. Mario, because you and Dr. Kim are very fascinating to me, and I couldn't not take the opportunity to work with you. So
Thank you for your generosity, Lane. We all come to the table for all sorts of different reasons. And you have been really candid in saying, I was feeling stuck in my life. There were certain things that were not necessarily working the way that you perhaps would have envisioned them working in certain stages. And we all have some of that happens to all of us. What were, if you don't mind sharing with the audience, what were some things that you were feeling that sensation of being stuck, that this inner seeker that it's evident is huge within you, that curious little girl that lives inside of this young woman's body, that is like, no, there's more here to the puzzle.
mhm.
And you're definitely walking your talk, because you definitely are in committed action to continue to discover some things that work, some things have not, but they have all been adding to the experience. And when we, as you did, because you were a transformative agent inside of our community in that cycle, when you open your mouth, people would listen. And not only listen, people would feel Lane. There's something that runs within you that really speaks to your power. Reason why you're here in the Human Power series. That is obvious right away. There's this energy that emanates from you that is real. What were some of those things that were just like not jiving, that you said, I need a different kind of support? I've done other things that haven't worked. Clearly, you're tapping into Dr. Kim's community, which has been super valuable to you, and then something else comes along. What was going on that is like, this is not working for me?
Well, like I said, I felt in this, like I was in this gridlock with not only others but myself. And I was like, what am I not allowing? Because as open as I try to be, there was this part of me that was, it's almost like I used to say I was riding the brakes in life, for many years. And it was almost like, it's like, don't go there, like these protective parts of myself. And it was this fear, I guess, that even though as I've gotten older, I've been able to like myself and find love for myself and stand on my own 2 feet, it was still that fear of what, what is wrong with me, or what am I missing? And what if I never find that? And then I'm stuck here and I don't evolve. Because I felt for many years that people were all around me, their lives were changing and they were moving forward. And I was stuck. Like it was part me and the resistance. And it was also like being reflected in my life. And I had people, like, for instance, with acting, it was, oh, yeah, you can be really talented, but the looks is what they really bank on. And I'm not talking about being attractive necessarily. I'm talking about if you don't look exactly how they picture in their mind, you could be the most talented person. And it's like, no, we're going to go with this person. And so I was running into things like that all the time where it was like, I felt powerless. And I felt like everything I had to get from the external and that I couldn't do anything about it. And so for me, it was, where are the chains within me? And what do I need to change about myself and how I think about myself? Because I already knew that it's reflected in the external. And I said, but I can't get in touch with those parts because I can't talk to anybody really. There's very few people that I can go that deep with. And I said, so with this program and Dr. Mario, if he can talk to his wife and be a support like this to his wife, and if he's developed a program for everyone, man or woman, I said, I have to take this leap, and I have to, if I have to talk to a stranger, I'll talk to a stranger, because at least I know the intention is there for me to be able to express myself and to explore what I'm holding myself back from. And so that's really it in a nutshell, because I felt like ruminating in my head about things all the time. I'm not getting anywhere. And then I don't feel like I have the agency to talk to other people about this in my personal life. Well, I have to do something. And I've tried traditional therapy before. And I felt like all I did was talk about my problems and go round and round and round. And I would start crying and I would, and it's just like, but nothing ever moved the mark. And I remember when I was in acting classes, I said I thought I would feel differently because I was struggling because I couldn't feel freely, and I would hold myself back. And my acting teachers would say, Lane, we see you and we see great things from you, but you're still like you're holding yourself back, and we just want you to know like there's so much more. And I did not realize at the time how much like I was holding on to and I was not allowing to feel. And so I just know that for me, I had to I had to find a way to express all of what I was feeling. And it didn't matter if I was uncomfortable or not. I just needed a space that I could do so. And this program, your community, is definitely that space for me.
Thank you, Lane. As you're talking, one of the things that is really present in my awareness is that the Alive community is what I call truly a home for humanity. You're speaking to something that is really powerful, and it's this aspect of who do I go to talk to about these things, right? Because the therapist and the this and the that, I'm not getting there. But something inside of you knew that there's got to be other unicorns like me, right? It's like it takes one to see one. I can completely relate. It's like this is no different than some people. This is the funniest thing. You go travel to a foreign country, and we're broadcasting here from the United States. So you go to a different place, and you hear somebody talking, you can recognize it's an accent from the United States, and you're like in the middle of nowhere in some other foreign land, and suddenly you're like so happy that you found these people that speak your language, and you go over there, and even though you don't know who these strangers are, just to have the connection, the cultural connection, that they happen to be from the same place you're from, even if they're criminals, somehow you don't feel alone anymore, right? Like you're with criminals here in the room. It's like, I'm so glad I found you, right?
Yes, thanks so much.
Right? Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here. It's like, oh my gosh, and you have nothing in common, but you have everything in common. The Alive community is a home for humanity. I really believe that, because as you experience with nearly 200 people from all over the world, in that very first day where we kind of like tippy toe into the proverbial room, who's going to be here? Who's going to talk first? Who's going to say what? Da, 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 da. And here you're like, I don't know, but I'm Lane is here and I'm going to talk and I'm going to say what's coming up because I am sick and tired of not being seen. And your
Yes.
power starts to shine through, and then suddenly everybody's popping and wanting to say lane this, lane that, and then people wanting to post. For those of you watching this right now, inside of the GL28, one of the things that we do is called quick bites. And quick bites are small invitations or small invites. We don't force anybody to do anything in here. I don't believe in that philosophy. And just to have this safe container for people to come together to heal. In fact, you've heard me say this before, Lane. I believe, and it's in practice here in my community, that healing is a team sport. It has to be because of what you're speaking to, which is so powerful. This feeling of loneliness when we're going through difficult moments, which are so human, it's real for us when we go through them, isn't it?
Yes.
But then
Yes.
when we actually come into a room with people that are like human, that they're just no judging you, as cliche as it sounds, they love you. They're willing to accept you, to listen to you, to hold the space, and you start to see that that is not a one-off. Then suddenly you're like, I have come to a place that I can be me. Can you speak to that and how that made you feel and the safetiness of it? Because as you know, Lane, in the virtual world, it's nearly impossible to believe that that is possible. But everybody in the community is pitching in to make that possible every day.
I think we've grown so hard as a society that if you are open and receptive and you're kind and you do things without an agenda, people think you're being fake. Like you must. And I struggled with that for a long time because there were people who actually were manipulative and they did. I'm the nicest person in the world and you should be nice to me back. And I really struggled with that because I was like, wait a minute, so if somebody's being nice to me, then I have to give you something back, like, I owe you. And it was very convoluted. But when I look back at the people who are the kindest to me, that's just who they are. That's just people who are so in touch with their core. And we all have that, I've realized. I don't care if you're the most stoic, tough love, hard knock life person. What I've realized, because I kind of was like this for a while. And my brother-in-law one time, he said, you act all tough and you can do everything, which you can. But he said, but on the inside, you're really very tender and squishy and, just soft and friendly. And I said, yeah, I said, because that's what I thought was expected of me to be. And I think people are so afraid of getting hurt and they're afraid of the world out there. And I think they don't want to be wrong about life. And so it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to have to stay hard and locked up and contracted. And so then when I started to do all this work and I realized, no, I'm safe whether I'm acting like a Care Bear or Godzilla. It doesn't matter. But I do believe that you get what you are. You attract in what you are. And the more I've opened up since doing this program, the more life and other people have opened up to me. And I've seen that a little bit, like I said, a sprinkling before. But even people who were already nice to me, I feel like I can go further in my connection to them because I'm not seeing through that old perspective. I have blown that perspective out the way. And no, you're not fake or phony because you're kind and giving and you don't expect anything and there's no catch. There's no agenda for a lot of people. I find, I think, you have to question the things that make you feel powerless. And this program definitely has done that for me because there were still some things that I was kind of hemming and hawing about. And I don't want to be wrong or I don't want to be foolish or I don't want to get hurt. But what I've realized is that, I get to decide what the truth is for me. And if other people are willing to show their truth, And if they're willing to show their light, well, me closing off to it is just going to hurt the both of us. So I choose I choose to be open because I've lived long enough to know what it's like to be hard and to be um, ungrateful. and and I was like, there has to be a better way. I kept asking myself that for years. I said, there has to be a better way, because there are people, and I've seen them along the way. They are happy with hardly anything. And then there are people who are genuinely happy with everything. And then there are people who are not happy with either way. And it's like, what is that puts us in that state? And when you do this practice, you will find all the answers because it's very simple. And yet, I mean, I've known about Rhonda Byrne for a long time, and I never read The Magic until I did this program. And I was just like, it stares you right in the face. People who are unbothered in life, I think they have more ease. And it's not something that's only for certain people, it's for everybody. I've realized, because I'm a seeker, like you said, and mostly for the truth and what is true for me and about the world. And I was lied to about a lot of things. And as I've gotten older, I have now had to make choices. Do I continue to believe the lies because I may be ridiculed or judged for that? Or do I believe in what the foundational truths of this existence are and suffer some people's criticism? Because either way, I feel like there are always going to be people who don't believe in anything. And I'm not here to force them to do that. I have to live in my own truth, because I'm tired, or I was tired of being unhappy. And I felt so disconnected from myself. And I was trying to make everybody see me and hear me. And I was trying to contribute to life, and I was trying to figure it all out. And I just got to a point where I was like, I'm tired. I want this to be over with. And the relief that I've gotten from this program, like, I wake up now, and even if I've had, which I usually sleep pretty well, but I wake up now, even if I've tossed and turned, and the grogginess is gone. I wake up because, I do have some thyroid issues, and I don't have that, like, dragging through my day anymore. And when I'm faced with challenges, both small and big, it's so much easier to just, like, make my way through my day. And I'm not anticipating bad things to happen or that I need to brace for impact anymore. And I have so much more peace, like real peace, that I didn't even, years ago, when COVID started, I asked myself, what is it do I really want? Because I felt like I couldn't grasp hold of anything. And I realized what I really wanted was peace, like real, just, just calm. And this knowing that life is not a catastrophe. It is a gift, as we talk about in this program. And you may have challenges, but you will have a lot less when you find the truth and you stop listening to things that people use to control others. And I'm not here to wage war on anybody, but I just know there are a lot of people who would rather live the hard knock life that I had to get away from in terms of my thinking in order to set myself free. And this program has helped tremendously, even with the basics. And I sit there and I'm reading, and then I'm also doing the prompts, and I'm listening to Dr. Mario, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so easy. Life can be really easy and profound. It doesn't mean that you just sit on your butt all day and that you just turn into a vegetable, but it is about, you have to stop fighting yourself and everything that is. And it's real work. It's not frou-frou or woo-woo or whatever people say. It's the real work. And I know, because like I said, I've gone down that road of zipped up tight, serious, no fun. you know you need to provide for the world, be valuable. And then I started to question. I said, well, I've always been told how different I am. Maybe I should go that way. So this program, again, meeting other people who will meet you with kindness, who will meet you with openness, who, you know, even if they're uncomfortable about what you're saying, because you're getting them to feel things maybe they've never felt before. Like, I remember I would start watching videos, and it would make me feel things, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna like zone out or try to do something. Like, I need to focus in on what they're going through, because I'm going through the same things. And so I try to be a part of everybody's post and at least read them, because I'm like, this is a reflection of me too. And so I feel like it's as much work to do the things myself as it is to look into other people's lives and to meet them where they're at, and also the realizations they've had. So that's a really long answer, but
Well, it's really powerful, powerful, powerful. Lane, when you come in and now you're starting to engage it, day one, you basically went from 0 to 1,000 in 1 millisecond, which I love, because you were like, I'm here, whatever is here for me, I'm just going to go for it. And you ended up inspiring from day one people. But something really powerful happened in your GL28 journey, which, after witnessing you unfold as the magnificent being that you are, became very obvious to me. There was this disconnection with the feeling body, which we talk about in the program. And you started to discover it at your own pace with the support of the soul map, which is a concept that I teach, to be able to know what you're feeling and where is it.
mm-hmm.
As you were talking about this earlier, and you were talking about acting, and your teachers telling you, like, you got to feel it. I was saying to myself, maybe we need to actually bring the soul map to acting schools, so that the
Yes,
aspiring actors and actresses can actually feel their body and know what is the emotion that they're feeling, because it's a reflection of that. But that's a different conversation.
yeah,
But you started to connect all of this body of work that the seeker in you had been doing, that didn't have a physical place to be placed in or under or at. What started to happen, and where was the big aha for Lane? Because this is going to change people's lives when they hear you talk about this. This was massive for you. And then suddenly the shackles and the chains were just like torn. Like, you were not non-apologetic and showing up and like, I'm here, alive. Why did you do what? How did that support you to be able to like embody that? Because you became truly an embodiment of the work, and it changed your life. It changed your health,
yeah.
changed your weight, the way you look. I mean, it's like massive.
Well, I don't know exactly the answer that I specifically gave in the program, but I think I got a general sense of it. Is that what I think you're alluding to is that I was resisting the things I didn't want to experience,
Mm-hmm.
and I was making myself wrong because my family had made those things wrong. Like, we are not going to feel, we are not going to talk about it. We're just going to move forward, and you got to deal with it.
Mm.
And so when I realized that the purpose of life and the way that you become fully grateful for your life is to feel everything, and that there are no limits. And even if it keeps popping up, if you just let it be there and you come out of your mind and into your body, it dissolves. And because you're seeing it. And I was doing to my body and my feelings what I had been, how I had been treated by other people. And I was making myself wrong for feeling those things. And I was like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm not grateful for those things because what am I going to do with that? But I realized that the whole point of this existence as a human being, as a spiritual being in a human body, to be more specific, is that everything is for you, and you're meant to feel what you feel, and that from my this is my own personal opinion, since I've been thinking about things the last few weeks, that nothing can really hurt me or control me unless I think that way and I allow for that to happen. And so when I go into my body and I allow, and that was the thing, my family were really good pretenders. Everything's fine, everything's from the neck up. And I did not want to pretend anymore. And I would tell anyone who says, well, yeah, but actors pretend. No, the real ones do not pretend. The real ones are present in their bodies. And that was probably what I was trying to get to, but I may have slipped my mind earlier. But what I realized is that I am free, and I have received the freedom that I've always been looking for by allowing myself to feel every single thing. And it feels, and I know I said this in the video, it feels so good to be fully alive because I had been like in a straitjacket for so many years. And I have high octane energy. And when I was being told, no, be quiet, that's not allowed, that's not helpful, or that's not appropriate, yeah, shoving it down. And the one thing I've always said about myself, I don't like being told what to do. But for some reason, I allowed myself to do that to myself because I could have chose a different way. But that's what happened. And so once I heard you speak on this, that everything is given to us, our lives are given to us. We don't have ownership in a way that people think about owning other things of our lives. And so if you are trying to cut out things, you will never be fully connected. And I feel like I said, I wake up and instead of feeling that anxiety of trying to get something done or fix or solve, it's like, wait a minute, wait a minute. My ancestors were not concerned about the things that I am concerned about right now because I have all of this in here to experience. And it's not hurting me. Even the things that feel the worst, like it hurts me more to not deal with them and to not see them and to not feel them. And I would tell you, going back to, for a while, I was so much in my mental space and I was depleting myself. I'd go to my holistic metaphysical doctor and she's like, you were so depleted. And I said, I don't know what to do about that. Like I'm trying here. And what I found for myself was that because I was always up here trying to figure it out, like I was just like energy was just going out, 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 out. And instead of just utilizing the energy in my body and being able to alchemize it and keep the energy within me, I was doing the opposite. And so being able to say, if I'm feeling something really difficult, I don't need to solve it. I saw a video the other day that said life is not a puzzle, but rather a wave. And you got to ride the wave. And I so resonate with that. I love the water. I love, just being immersed in it. And I feel most like myself in water. And so I was like, yeah, it really is. It's life is a wave. And the more you feel, the better it gets. And it's when you stop feeling and you try to intellectualize everything, and if you're always looking for problems to solve, you're going to find more problems to solve. And I get that. For me, for years I was like, oh, I so get this. Like I'm pretty quick. I'm a quick learner. But I still was like, I can't let any of this stuff here come out. I can't. And then one day, and through this program, I realized, no, I can, and it's okay, because it's me. It's me. It's not like it's something that's an enemy, but I need to stop doing to myself what other people were trying to do to me in the first place. And so yeah, to feel everything and to be fully alive. I mean, it was just like
Oh,
whatever um energetic boundary, or I think of it like my fascia was just like blown open and then put back together, and everything was reconnected. And it was like, again, the simplest thing. It's not complicated. You have to be an allowance. You have to be present. And even when it's inconvenient, even when you feel like you don't have time, and don't make it something like you have to go and figure out why you're feeling this necessarily. Just feel it. Like I've had to lay in bed at night, and I just, like, when I'm doing my gratitude with the magic rock, and things will come up, and I'm like still trying to, it's like, figure it out, and I'm like, nope. No, just sit here with it, and just feel it, because that's it, plain and simple. And I'm very much about breaking things down, simplifying, and getting to the root or the source. And I've always been like that. And so thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mario. Thank you so much for this. And, I just, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. It's mind blowing, but then it's also like, it's been there. It's been there forever. And it
it's human.
takes being open enough, and like your wife says, that 2% of being open enough to receive it. And I'm glad that I did. So glad.
Thank you for that. I mean, that's super powerful of a share. Lane, one of the images as I listen to you and feel into what you're saying, and every single thing was bringing memories back of every single cycle in deal 28 and the experience or journeys that I offer. And the image that kept on coming back is all of these things are an alchemizing cauldron where, as you were saying, we never were vested, and we never are, and we never will, in psychoanalyzing anybody. And let's go back to your childhood when you were 2 and this happened and this made some trauma and all this trauma. We never did that. The access point to be able to heal, transcend, to grow, to expand, to learn, whatever word suits your belief system, is to access all of that through the feeling body. Reason why we don't pay attention to the stories. I don't really even allow it to go, let's go into the story, tell me everything about it. No, it's like, what are you feeling? Because as you were saying, which we teach in the experience, we've been living from the neck up. And then how about everything else that is happening below it? That is like screaming at us all the time for us to pay attention and bring that sense of awareness. But we haven't really had the tools because we have been in the age of the brain, age of the enlightenment. We've been for 200 years revering the brain and how brilliant, what a genius, has an IQ of 400 IQ. right? It's all about that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're depressed, we're unhappy, we don't know what's going on, we feel stuck, and there's something inside us saying there's got to be a different way to do this, and connecting the dots. Lane, you dive into it, the weeks and the 28 days start to progress. The powerhouse in you starts to wake up like a Godzilla, like the Godzilla of like awakening in a good way, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
suddenly you truly start to embody this unstoppability factor, which, as you know, many people in the community from all over were like, thank you, Lane. Oh my gosh, Lane, you said this, and that. And suddenly everybody's feeling it. What then starts to unleash in you towards that second half of the 28 days that just changed your life? Not my words, yours.
You know, a lot of things, physical things, emotional things, relationship things started shifting. I found myself less irritated by the people and angry at the people who I had issues with, which was a big thing for me because that was where I probably felt the most stuck. And then, like I said, I'm waking up every day and I'm not instantly going into that reeling of got to get something done. Because what I was doing with that reeling and the anxiety was what I've come to know is I was avoiding for years all the bad feelings. And I was trying to, it's like if I made more money or if I got whatever roles or if I sold more paintings or if I did this, then I could prove that everything was okay based off of how I was told you would be okay, as a person, how you would look okay, And everything I've learned is in my family, a lot of it is about perception. And for me, I've just always been a very honest person. And so for me to be able to say, you know what, they can be themselves. I don't need to fix that. And even though sometimes things do come up, I can pause without reacting. And I can still feel the agitation or the anger, but I started to notice it was petering out, and that even when I was in situations where it may have caused my adrenaline to spike or I'd get nervous or whatever, I started to notice that my mind would recall those moments and how I felt, but my body was so calm and just like relaxed. And I was like, whoa, this is this is tripping because I was so used to, like in my chest. And I noticed through the program, like how much physically, like the tension that I held, especially like in my stomach, in my hips. And I knew like before the program, I've had a lot of tension in my jaw and different issues with like TMJ and stuff like that. But when I started to feel the tension releasing all over my body, and I realized, oh my gosh, I have been clamping and I have been like resisting. And I will tell you this because my mom has told me this over the years. I've been doing that since I was a baby. That stiffening, that clenching. And because there was always conflict when I was growing up. My parents didn't communicate well and they still kind of don't, but that's for them. And I do see that there is some relief happening in their lives through my work, but I'm not looking for it to happen. I'm not trying to force it to happen. I've observed that it is happening. And um, so anyway, so yeah, I realized how much tension was everywhere and not just in my jaw. And I could feel it. And I was just like, body, like, I just thank you because you held on for 36 years, like, going through this. And I was gonna keep trucking, keep going, keep fighting, keep resisting. And thank goodness that the signals from my body, like the thyroid disease, like, all the other things, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but all the other things, it was like, girl, we need relief. We need like openness. We need to go a different way because you are fighting. And I finally woke up and I was like, I don't want to go to war with myself anymore. And the easiest thing to do, and this program is the easiest thing to do. It really is. You may feel uncomfortable, but the practice is the easiest thing to do compared to all the other stuff I've done before. It's like, oh, I got to remember, all these, principles and, all these practices. And no, like, you're to be present, you're to pause and feel. If you do just that, I think you will transform your life 100 times fold because, like I said, I had no expectations. But sometimes in life, as much as I like to simplify things, there have been times where I've overcomplicated things because I thought I needed to show the work. It's like, you don't need to show the work to anybody.
Mm.
The proof comes with how you feel. And that's the biggest thing I felt, because I'll tell you another quick little excerpt from my past was I had lost about 30 pounds at one point and relatively quickly. And having a thyroid disease, I used to believe what my doctors told me, that I would always be overweight. I wouldn't be able to lose weight, like blah, 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 blah. So I lost the 30 pounds and everybody was like, oh my gosh, you look so different. You look so great and everything. I was like, yeah. I said, but I wish I felt as good on the inside as I look on the outside. And so for me, yes, I've clearly changed physically since starting this program, and you've noticed it, and thank you for your kind words and your observation, but I also feel so much different. I now got what I wanted back then, and I gave it to myself. I didn't have to go looking for it. And that is what I hope so many people get, is that, they like to say the hero's journey is this external thing and you have to, battle it out and you have to prove all this stuff. And really what I found for me is the hero's journey is going within and taking away the excess, taking away the lies, taking away what doesn't resonate with us, and being strong enough to stand in your own frequency and know that that is enough. That if other people don't see, based off of society, that you have stuff to offer, that doesn't mean anything about you, And it took me getting to this point to, like I said, I had previous realizations. But when you sit down every day, and it doesn't take hours to do this practice, and that's what I like because, I'm always on the move, but you have to take the time and give yourself the awareness, because if you don't, you will keep going and keep fighting and you will never find peace like I have found. And I don't care what anyone says, that's worth more to me than anything. Like, I have found the attachment I had to external things, I'm like, you know what? If that doesn't ever happen, or if I don't get this, or whatever, is my life, if I was gone tomorrow, was it still worth it being here? And I have said this so many times to myself, I'm like, yes, I now can say 100% yes. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I'm not a A-list Hollywood actress. It doesn't matter that I've only sold X amount of paintings. It doesn't matter that we've talked about earlier, like that I'm still single and all this stuff. But what I've been through, I've had a lot of really great stuff. But being that I kept it, the the hard stuff internally, it's been a challenge to not be able to know how to free myself. And so now that I have done that, it's like, you know what? Like, I don't even care about that stuff anymore. Like, I would love it. I have things that I would love to do, but I just now I see where the value is in my life. Yes. And the centeredness that I was looking for, it was always there. It was just I was trying to make it into something it's not. And so the clarity, and I'm all about clarity, you know, and I just every day, I'm like usually when I have strong realizations, I kind of like laugh just a little bit, like underneath my breath. And I can read something like, like, you know, like, and I'm like, yes, like this is just, you know, it's brilliant because it's simple. And I think some of the best things in life are free and they're simple. And that's just it.
That's amazing, Lane. One of the things that happens a lot in the, let's say, personal development, expansion work, that whole world of things that we have access to, especially when it comes to women and the relationship between men and women, is that it can be intimidating for women who are in the journey that you have been, and you're not alone in that, to come into spaces that are pretty contained and have a man be the one guiding the experience. And we were talking about this before we started the
Mhm.
conversation. Can you speak to that? Because I think that there's still, in many ways, there is a sense of intimidation. And I'm sensitive to that because there's a lot of women in our community. And I realized how important it is the masculine role to allow for women to have their experience so that there is this harmony that can really be co-created. Can you speak to that in your experience with that? Because I think that will give license to many women who may be on the fence of how do I approach my challenges and how can I get support in this community if a man like Mario is the one who's actually conducting the experiential journeys.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, you know, I've had a lot of men in my life who are, they're not used to being vulnerable, and they're not used to being able to express that because, you know, I'm from the South, and it's, you know, you've got to be like, you know, not necessarily like beating your hands on your chest masculinity, but it's, you know, a man is strong and assertive and, you know, calls the shots and, you know, like doesn't have time for kumbayaing and community and all that stuff, which I think is complete bogus. But what I found with you, and like we discussed earlier, was when I was introduced to you through Dr. Kim's YouTube, I saw somebody who, yeah, he's assertive and he's very to the point, you know, and very direct, and he's getting to the root of the problem, but he's also very like open and receptive. And the way that your wife talks about you, it's like, wow, like, and honestly, this is how I feel. Since we've talked about before about marriage and everything, I was like, oh my gosh. I said, well, I don't have a partner, but I said, when I do get one, I'm going to go. I said, I need to go to a live partner and I need to work with Dr. Kim and Dr. Mario because that's the type of relationship that I've seen in my life somewhat, but not very often. And so to see a man who I'm going to be working with, because a lot of times, I mean, even when I would go to the doctor, I'm like, if it's a man, I'm like, I'm not going to a male doctor. I don't want to go. Like, I don't even like going to get my car serviced because I'm like, I feel that intimidation, you know?
Mhm.
And working with you and seeing what kind of person you are, like, you're just very patient and open. And as I said earlier, I could say the craziest thing and I feel like you would just, okay, like no judgment. And I saw in when I would watch the replays of the lives, there were people who struggled more with being seen than even myself, and people who took a minute to get their ideas out and their feelings out. and maybe they didn't even know. They couldn't access it. And what I saw from you was the patience, and you're not trying to hurry up and fix, and like we're on a schedule, we got to make this happen. You were available. And I appreciate that because I have always been the one who is super available. And people really like that about me because I think a lot of people in society are so hurried, and they're about what they need to do. And to have somebody take their time, and I think I said this in the group, but to have somebody who, like yourself, who has a full-blown career, who has a family and kids, and I know all of what that entails, and being an aunt, and for you to come on during the process every day and to write the prompts, to make the videos, to talk about other people's responses and their lives and everything, instead of just laying it out in written form, which does work for some people. But I think people need, like myself, women, I should say, because we're talking about that, women specifically, but the women who need to see that, like, that was one of the reasons why I joined this program, because I said, here is a man who knows his stuff, who is very well educated, but he's not going to mansplain me, or he's not going to try to hurry it along, fix the problem. Like, when you're in this program and speaking to you on the lives, we have all the time in the world, and respectively, but I just was in awe of that because, like, I get it. Like, that's how a lot of men have been conditioned. It's like, fix the problem, get it done, and move along. And now they're, over the last few decades, society's been trying to get women to be like that. And I have experienced a detriment to my health because of things like that. And
Mm.
so leading by example is exactly what you do. And the fact that, I'm constantly tuning in to both you and Dr. Kim, and I see how you've both navigated through life. And I just am like, yes, that's if I'm going to model my life after people, it's going to be people like you guys, because there are people in the spiritual community and also in the healing community that, you can listen to them and it's like, it is a bunch of garbage, like they're just whatever. But this is real. And because you're dealing with the most basic foundation part of being a human being, and that is our emotions and our feelings. And it's a very hard place for some people to connect to, and I know that from personal experience. But at some point it's like you just erupt, and you got to know where to go to deal with them. And it's not dealing with them to make them go away or to fight them. It's, how do I embrace, like Dr. Kim says, embrace everything. And so it's a totally different experience with someone, especially, like I said, masculine, divine masculine, who is a real divine masculine, and not what society says is a real masculine man. And I don't think society even knows what they want anymore, because they trash both sexes now. It's like, which direction are we going in? So yeah, if there's any woman out there, like, you may cry talking to Dr. Mario, but it's not because of him. It's because he is making you so comfortable to be able to show up, and to be vulnerable. And I'm definitely a crier at times, and I'm surprised I haven't been bawling my eyes out during this conversation. But
So am I. And I love it.
yes, yes,
That's
yes.
very, very generous. Thank you so much for sharing that. Such an insight. Lane, as we're coming to the end of this gathering that we've been having today, one of the things that I run into that we get asked is this really for me? And I like to ask my guests because that's a lot more powerful than whatever I could say about the experience. How would you address that, whether on the female side or the masculine, men's side? How would you answer that, Lane?
Are you ready for this?
See?
Are you ready for this? It's
Oh
for
boy.
everybody. It's for everybody. It's for your grandma who is 100 and she has never spoken about anything. And it's for children who have big feelings like I did, who didn't know where to put them, what to do, how to get through life, and because you're being told you're too sensitive, and this program will get you to see that you are the way you are and you need to be the way you are. Not it's just okay to be who you are. You are the way you are for a reason. And I heard this years ago, and I was watching something, and somebody said, "What if the things you think are bad about you are for somebody else to see something, to realize something?" And so when you say it's important to show up in this process, and even if it's scary, even if it's like the first time you've ever done this, like I agree. I think even if you're like me and you have no expectations because you feel like you've done it all and you feel kind of like you're just joining another program, you're not joining another program, because I I'm like a literal bookworm, and I have gone down all the rabbit holes, and I have experienced so much, and this program really has changed me in ways, like I said, that I didn't expect. And it continues. Like, I don't even have to try, Dr. Mario. Things like, let me back up just a little bit. I'm getting really excited, so I hope I'm not talking too fast. But I have started to do over the past couple of years fascia work. And from what I've learned about it is that it opens up our perception, and I have had things come to the surface because of it. But I don't do it all the time, and I'm getting the same effect with doing this practice and being in touch with, the more I'm in touch with what I'm feeling, the more comes up to be not rationalized, but just like, it's like, oh, okay, I can let that go. And oh, this isn't really what I thought it was. I can let that go. And like I said, I just feel so much more now. Like I don't have to try so hard at life. And like I said, I've seen physical things, physiological things change, not just with my weight, but with other things. And like I said, I'm feeling like the cooling instead of being so hot. And I still have high octane energy, but I'm not I'm not like looking for whatever's next to fight or um to solve. And I just, even in the tough emotions that keep popping up, it's a lot easier. And my life just feels like, when they talk about it being fluid, and I feel that fluidity now more than ever. And I feel like I've given myself the opportunity to be more of myself. And I care less about other people's opinions. And like I said, it's not that I don't trust anything. It's
Hmm.
I've learned to not put other people's opinions ahead of mine, because it was always a concern of mine that, well, what if I don't know? What if I never know? What if I don't figure it out? And now it's like, if I had had you or somebody like you to talk to when I was a child, um, I wouldn't be here. But that's not the point. And so I just think that with all the adults who are taking this course, it is going to directly affect their relationships with their children. And I love children. And I really would like to have some sooner than later. But just because I love them so much. And I see when I'm out I see the struggle and I see the limitation and I see where people they're just like me or how I was, and they're hurting and they feel like they have to be a certain way, and then they're treating their kids like that, and we're all just burdened by this lack of understanding and connection. And so I just, I just do what I know what to do through this practice, and I send so much love to when I see a parent who's struggling, and I don't get on my high horse and like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't be talking to your kid like that. And it changes you. Like you let go of that grip of needing to save or um change, and I know.
You're not being triggered at
Yeah,
every turn.
yeah. And I mean, because I do personal shopping and deliveries, and I'm in all kinds of places all day, and I would hear parents, and I'm just like, oh my God, like I know where you're at. And I hope that you can someday, that you can open up just like I did, because like that was one thing I started to realize how critical I was, and I felt very lost and in the dark. And it was because I shut myself out from my whole life. It wasn't life was shutting me out. It wasn't that people were shutting me out. I was doing that. So now that I've opened everything up again and I don't fear for my life, and I know what the truth is, it's just like you can't not do this practice.
100%. Lane, you're such a powerhouse of a human being because anybody watching this conversation right now must be feeling exactly what I feel, this sense of awe and admiration for your courage, for your rawness, which is so attractive. It's very attractive when you actually are in the presence of somebody who is wildly open because it's become such a rare trait which is inherent to all of us being healthy. And when somebody taps into that the way you have, it's very, very attractive. It's really it's uplifting. It's not a breath of fresh air. It's just like it's a fresh atmosphere. And that's what you've done here.
Thank you.
For all of you who are joining us, we've been here in conversation with Miss Lane McDougall in another episode of Alive Partner TV with Dr. Mario Torres-Leon and our special series, HPS or Human Power Series. And Lane, without a doubt, is true embodiment of human power. No question. Packed up in this young woman's body. Unbelievable. The degree of transformation that you have unleashed for yourself and really generously through your own journey created mirrors for others to see themselves in you to be able to meet themselves in those places too. How kind and how generous. Lane, is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to share with the audience that really speaks to you? Any awareness or insight that you would like to share before we come to an end in this gathering?
I would just like to say, if you're going to commit to this program, commit every day. Even if you miss a day, get back on track and fully commit to it. And by committing, I mean like being completely open to it. And you're going at times to be uncomfortable. You're going to probably feel things you've never felt before. And even myself, I've been doing this work for a long time, but I still had things come up that I was like, wow, like obviously, and it's brilliant. And it really is magic. And Dr. Mario, you have the energy, the high octane energy that I also possess. And I know we've spoken about it, but I just so appreciate that, because we need more people who are, and I guess because you are fully alive with your
Alive.
emotions, we need more people who are just as alive and excited about living as we are about creating new things and bettering relationships. like I said, it all comes down to the basics. Like for me, it's what is the simplest thing I can do to better improve my life? Because I've spent years following protocols, listening to other people speak on their experiences, and they did shift me in ways, but not like this. And because, like I said, I feel like this is a foundational aspect of a human being that if you don't know, now's your chance to get locked into it, and it truly truly just sets you free. And I remember talking to my sister about it almost every day, and she used to joke with me. She's like, I better be number one on that gratitude list, you know. And I said, oh, you are. And but it's much more than just having things to be grateful for. It's really figuring out, the only thing you really have to figure out is why. And because that connects you to furthering the discovery of what the truth is for yourself. And you know, because if you don't have a why, it's like, well, you could just sit on the couch and let your life fly by. So I just would recommend that to anyone who's doing this. um, I'm a kind of all or nothing kind of girl, and I like to jump in with both feet. And when I was in acting, my teachers always used to be like, oh, well, Lane's going first, you know, to do her scene. And, you know, and just like in this program, I was like, well, it's like, I guess here it goes. This is it, you know? Yeah. And so if you're not that kind of person, I feel like you will definitely open up and become more available to that kind of energy. And it will change you even if you don't know what's like, you don't know the inner workings of how it changes you. It just does. You know, that's energy. And I know sometimes it's hard to uh to figure things out or to understand them when we can't like see it, but you will see it in how you feel. You will
Yes,
see it in how your external reflects to you. And it may start small at first, but then you will have great shifts. And I look forward to the bigger and bigger shifts that I'm going to receive, because I know they're coming. I know that they're already here.
indeed.
It's just, life is truly about opening up again, because if you have the blinders on like I did, because you're so afraid of what might happen, well, choose to not be afraid no matter what anybody says. You don't have to listen to what anybody says, especially if you're an adult. You get to make your own decision. And
Mhm.
for me, it's just reinforced that time and time again, that we do know, not just women who have intuition, men know it too. But if you listen to everything external to you and you don't feel into what's happening here, you will be confused for the rest of your life. And I was going down that road. so, so here's to not being confused, to being full of more energy. Like I feel I feel like I've just gone up another level.
You have.
So
Yes, you have. Lane, thank you. Thank you so much for your deep generosity, your vulnerability, your candor. Because this is really what transforms people when they can see it. It's not what I say, it's really what people go through. And for people to have the courage like yourself to really speak from the heart about what exactly happened, what this is all about.
mhm.
This is Dr. Mario Torres-Leon. Today we have been in conversations with Miss Lane McDougall here in Alive Partner TV in another episode in our edition, special edition of the Human Power series. And Lane truly has gifted us with a human example of what human power looks like when it's unleashed. If you've liked this content and this has resonated with you, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to our channel, to like the content, and more importantly, to also leave us a comment so we know how this resonated for you. Lastly, and as I like to say in every single episode of Alive Partner TV, if this really stirred something inside of you, if it deeply resonated, please don't keep it to yourself and share it with others. Maybe one person in your life that you love, maybe somebody's in your life. Why? Because you may be, in sharing this content, the catalyst of change, the person who brought a better life to somebody else by bringing some different kind of awareness, not through Dr. Mario, but actually in this case through Lane McDougall. And that is actually what is the ultimate proof of what we're capable as human beings to support one another in this very intricate and exhilarating journey called life. Lane, thanks again for your deep generosity. We love you in the community. Can't wait to see you in another cycle of GL28. And until next time and another episode of Life Partner TV, have an amazing rest of the week. So long.
Bye. Thank you so much.